Good day to you all, wonderful people. It is I, Big King Badger here, fan of the strange and unusual video game. And what I would like to do today is, as the title suggests, look into top 10 games on the PS2 that I really, really love. From my PS2 collection, as it's incredibly hard to pick a top 10 at the best of times, what I've done is I've cut it down to the letters A to M for this video. So we're going to kick things off with the first game, and I have to stress this is not in any particular order whatsoever, but let's get rolling. So the first game I've picked is The Bouncer for the PS2. It is a game which it is bittersweet to me. It was very, very hyped up when the PS2 was first being launched. It was by Square Enix, or at the time, Squaresoft, before the merger of Square and Enix. The game essentially is a Roman beat 'em up, which is similar to Streets of Rage and things like that. A game which is absolutely dear to my heart. I really, really love Streets of Rage, and The Bouncer was bigged up as some amazing and epic game. And when it came out, it looked very pretty and was incredibly short. The story is very interesting when a mysterious girl comes in. A couple of bouncers, hence the title, roll in to come to her rescue and get to the bottom of some nefarious scheme. I have a very big soft spot for this game. I'm not saying it's the most stunning game ever made. I'm not saying it's got the deepest gameplay, because it doesn't, but it's a Roman beat 'em up which is pretty cool and pretty funky. So I would always say check this one out. Why not? The next game that I have available, which I would like to tell you about, is Final Fantasy X. Yeah, a bit of an obvious one, I know. It's got its critics. Some people love it, some people hate it. But you know what? I really like it. In terms of the gameplay, people say that it's very linear. It's very one way. You know, you've got a path and you have to walk it. But if I'm honest, that is the story that works for what the game is, which is essentially a pilgrimage to a sacred location, so that you can stop some big bad evil. So really, in a sense, yeah, that works, because the story is about characters walking to a location, and to be honest, it's more about the journey and the characters and the world that you come across when you're playing the game. Again, another Square soft game, as I was going to say Square Enix, but I'll not. The game is, I really liked it. It's pretty cool. It's got an immersive world that everyone that I can think of really has hit home or can see something in. So it's definitely well worth it. I'm going to say that's one of my top ones for PS2. Now, another one, which I would say would be Extermination. Now, this one isn't as well heard of, and again, it's another early PS2 game, but one which is pretty cool and I think needs a lot more love than it deserves. So, essentially, you're part of a special task force which is sent to an Arctic exploration and scientific research base to see what's gone on. The game plays essentially like a third person. I don't want to say it's really survival horror, because there are some more action elements to it, but it is very, very survival horror in a winter location, so very good for a seasonal time of year. But what I absolutely love about the game is that it takes a lot of different elements from different games, such as Resident Evil, and even such as films like John Carpenter's The Thing, if you've ever seen that, to make something really special, as there are some monsters that are living out there and things like that. So definitely well worth it, and one which I would say is worth picking up. Now, as a side note as well, if you are a fan of the Deadly Premonition game, this is made by some of the same guys who made Deadly Premonition. Now, if I'm honest, I'm not going to say, oh, it's just like Deadly Premonition, but in the snow. No, I'm not. But what I am going to say is it's a very quirky, unique game, which is referencing a lot of things from video games and films in it. So definitely well worth a look. Now, another one which I absolutely love is Dark Chronicle, sequel to Dark Cloud. It is essentially a RPG where you have to dungeon crawl and find bits of a destroyed world. and you build it back up. So it's got RPG, but it's also got kind of Sim City elements to it. Now, I was torn between whether or not I would pick Dark Cloud, the first game, or Dark Chronicle, the second game. Overall, I went for Dark Chronicle simply because it has, I would say, a lot more of a rounded, polished feel to it. Dark Cloud is a much earlier PS2 game, and one which I absolutely love, but still, Dark Chronicle's where it's at. So when you've dungeon crawled, you've done what you need to do, you've found bridges and buildings and things like that, you then have to go to the overworld and find out what the actual people who used to live there wanted and how they want the world and things to look. So it's pretty cool, pretty unique, and well worth your time. It's one which I absolutely loved, so definitely well worth picking up and having a look at. Now, another one, this one is an absolute guilty pleasure of mine. Firefighter FD. Now, I have a very strange habit of loving either scuba diving games or, even better yet, fireman games, and that's what this is. Essentially, published by Konami, it is a game where you are a fireman tackling fires. Pretty funky, pretty unique, and well worth your time. So you could almost say that it's a bit of a survival type game, but also action orientated, from chopping down doors and things like that. It's very strange, but unique and well worth your time. I would definitely say have a nosy into that one. So that's Firefighter FD, published by Konami. Or should I say published? Got to articulate from the Queen's English. Another one I absolutely love is Conflict Desert Storm. It is a third-person, I would probably say, squad-based action game, but it is very realistic. So you have 4 team members. Each one has a very particular specialist set. So you have things like the squad commander, demolition expert, sniper, and things like that. And you have to go through scenes set from the first war in Iraq. Now, it's a very tense and touchy subject, I appreciate, as the games were made before the second conflict over there. But it's well worth a look at. It's quite a realistic game as well, so don't expect to go in all guns blazing. If you've got a 4-man team and they're up against a tank, well, guess what? You're going to need to have a think, you're going to need to use stealth and things like that and to get through it. So, well worth your time. I appreciate the subject is a little bit touchy, but definitely worth it. There are other games in the series, but not as good as that one, I don't think, such as Conflict Global Storm. There was a second Desert Storm as well as a Vietnam game as well, but the first Desert Storm is where I would say it's at. Next up, Armored Core Nexus. Now, there are many, many, many Armored Core games that are out there. I love them all with mixed feelings. The reason why I picked Armored Core Nexus for PS2, though, over all the other PS2 games that are out there for the Armored Core series, is simply because it has a second disc on there, which essentially remakes some of the levels from the past games. So we're talking the original Armored Core, and then there are other games such as Project Phasma, which came out on PS1 as well, but didn't come out in Europe and the UK. So I love it for that reason, because you know what? You've got essentially a game on there and then a load of greatest hits classic ones to play as. So the actual game itself, you have to build up your own mech, and then as a mercenary go out and do missions based on defending or attacking or exploring and doing research, and then you get paid based on the mission that you've done. You then get money minused for things such as ammo expenses, damage to your mech, things like that. And then you have to balance the books to buy better equipment for your armored core, your core. You have to, buy new weapons, legs, right down to things such as jet boosters, and also things like tracking systems and things like that. It's a very stat-heavy game based on how you want to build your mech. So, well worth your time. It's very deep, and for me as well, I absolutely love it. I love it over other from soft games as well, such as Dark Souls. For me, I am a little bit salty, and I did wish that this would get picked up more, but the Armored Core games did move away from their really realistic stat-based gameplay to a lot more arcadey type feel, but well worth your time. I would definitely recommend it. So next up, I would say, from my top 10 is Global Defense Force. I did an entire video on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time because there is the video available all about my love for it, but I can't pick a top 10 and not have this in there. So, third-person action game, well worth it. Horde mode is essentially what it's at, but well worth your time. Now, the next one, which I will pick up on, is Jak 2. Well, Jak 2, you say, what about Jak 1? Well, Jak 1 is a very nice sort of kiddie platformer type game. The reason why I picked Jak 2 is simply because it is much more gritty and in-depth in terms of the story, in terms of what happens and the foreshadowing that takes place in it. Still a platforming game, and you'd almost say a kid-friendly GTA, but well worth it. Definitely well worth your time. I absolutely adore it. So, what would be my final game in this, not, I must say, top 10, which is no way, shape or form ranked. It's just my random top 10 that I wanted to pick up on. Well, the final one is Ico. I absolutely loved the game when I played it originally. So another platforming type game, I would say, but it does have some puzzle elements to it as well. You essentially are locked in a ruined castle because you have horns, and you're outcast from your society. The game itself is very minimalist in terms of the story and what happens and how everything is portrayed in terms of the story and the lore. You could pretty much have to look for it and piece it together yourself. But when you're in the castle, you come across a mysterious girl which is locked up in there. You free her, and then it's all about you and this girl trying to escape, but with these dark shadow creatures coming for you, which are counterpointed by the girl, who is, I'm not going to say she glows, but she is very luminous, and there's a very mysterious element to it. So definitely well worth your time, and definitely a game to pick up on. Now, you can pick it up on the PS2 as this is, and it came out on PS3 as a re-release and things like that as well, and it is part of the series which does include Shadow of the Colossus and Last Guardian. How are they all connected? Well, that's up to you, because again, the overall story is very mysterious and vague, and it's left up to player interpretation how you want to interpret the games are linked, but well worth it. A game which has platforming elements as well as physics-based puzzle elements. So an amazing game, and well worth it. So that is my top 10 of games which are from A to M. Let me know what you think. Please give me a message. I would love to see what your top 10 is. Please tell me all about it. If you don't agree with this game, or you want some more information, please let me know. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and get ready to see what the other top 10 is for the last couple of letters of the alphabet. I'm Big King Badger, and it has been a pleasure to watch. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you all very soon.